We'll get back to gameplay and all the promised stuff that I promised you guys, like the Nether episode of Minecraft, Danganronpa, and all of that in the future, I promise. But I want to do like a good news video just because it's 2020, we could use some good news, especially about things we've talked about on the channel before and some other stuff. So, jumping to the first one, Scarizard, aka Scarizard Plays. We talked about them back in April. It was their anniversary of doing streaming for a while now, as well as their YouTube channel that's up there with Friendetta if you're into Magic the Gathering. But furthermore, we also talked about briefly on that video that Twitch actually hadn't paid them, and at that point in time I want to say it was almost like half a year if not longer, in which case if it's like YouTube, right, like you get paid about monthly, depending on, you know, hitting a certain threshold, they'll pay you out in about once per month time. But they just straight up haven't been paying him for a while, and the issue also was is they would contact support, they kind of would go in a circle with support, and the support's basic conclusion was, oh, you basically don't exist, which is completely not true, by the way. Well, fortunately, here's a good update on that story, is they have finally paid Scarizard, and also, to my understanding, paid them all of what they owed them. So it was like 9 months worth of back pay that they all got paid up at once. To my understanding, I don't want to put too much words on the situation because I didn't look too much into it. I feel like it's also mainly their business, so I'm not talking about it too much, like money and stuff like that of other people. But it is good news, right? Like Twitch, they finally paid them, which is great because especially when, you know, their partner streamer stuff, that's livelihood and whatnot, potentially that's being affected by saying like they don't exist. That's kind of weird. We can all see them. It's right there. Twitch.tv/Scarizard Plays. But fortunately, yes, the good news update to that story is Twitch has finally paid them out. It's great, it's wonderful, it's good to see. We've known Scarizard for quite some time at this point. We got to meet them at PAX West, the PAX that no one really goes to anymore because they're burnt out by PAX East and PAX South. And I don't say that to be rude, by the way. It's like, it's fine. Like, there's like travel stuff, especially this year. No one's going anywhere, fortunately. But yeah, we had to meet them a couple years ago, and it was great meeting. They're a great person. They're the same behind the camera as they are on camera, and it's good to see something good head their way after all this time. Speaking of, though, Twitch and partnered streamers and stuff like that, someone else we also talked about briefly back in May, at about the middle of April, in a combined video with a lot of other people, and then their own specific video later on in May. Kurigames. KURI has been shooting for partnership. Technically, if you want to be, you know, specific, for 5 years have they been on Twitch, like streaming and working and grinding and stuff like that. And as of yesterday, at the point of recording this video, it is July 14th. As of July 13th, they got partnered. It happened. We said it was gonna happen. It was only a matter of time, and it should have happened long ago if we're just also being honest. But it's good, like better late than never, I suppose, on Twitch's part. They did partner him. They partnered the man. No more, you know, going for it, and then they kind of come back and say, oh, we're gonna like look into it more, we're gonna look at your account more, or no, and stuff like that. They finally hit it after 5 years of grinding for this. And yes, on one hand, and even this is something even they've said before, a checkmark doesn't really define you like as a person, as a streamer, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, stuff like that, right? Like unfortunately for some aspects, like maybe businesses and sponsorships, they'll look to see if you have one or not, to see A, if you are who you say you are, and then B, like the validity of your work perhaps. But beyond that, that doesn't really matter. You could be the same kind of person with the checkmark as you are without the checkmark, and it's all good. But what it does validate on top of that, though, is the fact that a lot of us wanted to see KURI get partnered. A lot of the work that he's put in, we wanted to see it rewarded with partnership. And that's what that checkmark kind of does represent. It doesn't mean he's suddenly like a suddenly different streamer than he was even the day prior before getting the checkmark, but it does mean all that work, I guess it kind of like puts a cap on all of that work and says, yes, you did put the work in. Here's like a visual representation proof of the work that you've put in. Because especially in this line of work, content creation, right? A lot of the work is probably behind the scenes even more so than on camera, but it can be a lot on camera too when you're an entertainer like KURI, for example. There's a lot, like Nags mentioned it when he was talking about congratulating KURI. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, there'll be times where KURI will just be up. You'll look up and like 2-3 a.m. he's still going strong on VR chat and RP session or whatever the case is. One of my fondest memories actually was I want to say it was maybe even a year ago. It was like GTA. It was just GTA Online. He was playing with some people, and it was just a lot amount of energy, fun, exciting. I clipped a couple of stuff in that. And that's my point. Like he was always grinding, even if it wasn't VR chat. It was just always like the effort was put in. Community days, so he can kind of communicate with his community, kind of connect with his community and stuff like that. And it's just great to see. So congratulations, KURI. It was a long time coming. Admittedly, I'm one of the people that I feel is a little bit late to the party because I did discover you through the crossover stuff the nags versus chips, like RP stuff. So I'm kind of a little bit late to the boat of the 5 years. I'm more of a 2018 person, but still, nonetheless, it's still been great to see that happen, and it's well about dang time, buddy. So with that being said, let's move on to some other stuff as well, but I did want to mention those two to start off the video because those are important. And if you haven't followed those people, I would go recommend following those people, especially on Twitch, which is where they mainly are at. They do have YouTube channels if you want to check that out as well. A little bit of good news for us, because I briefly mentioned this in the TikTok video we just did, but because it was a TikTok video, I imagine some people maybe didn't necessarily want to watch it, and that's fine. But we've kind of exploded a bit over there in a relatively short amount of time, to the point that it's actually driving views and subscribers over here, which is nice to see. But I also kind of want to take a second to remind people, this is a variety channel. Some of the content that I've made over on TikTok is very specific, and so I just want to give people a heads up. I will be trying to make more content like that, of course, but if you see other stuff, that's also why. And I just kind of want to warn you beforehand because of that. But also, just on a side note, what's kind of neat about stuff like that, and also just in general, if you're someone that's not necessarily TikTok, but just period, trying to grow your own audience, there can be this feeling of everything saturated, you can't do it anymore, you have to rely on shoutouts and maybe even Reddit and stuff like that to be able to grow, at least in a relatively quick amount of time. If you're willing to be in the trenches for like 10 years, go for it. But if you're trying to grow somewhat quickly, because you're also afraid of the future of these platforms overall, like will these platforms be around in 10 years? It's been like, YouTube's been around for 10 plus years. Some people said it wasn't going to be. Maybe it will be around for another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. But let's say you're kind of also worried about that. That's part of your anxiety of wanting to grind and get to a certain point sooner rather than later, which I think is actually fine, right? The thing is, you can still do it from scratch. There's a channel on YouTube that just blew up in just April of this year called Dad How Do I Do, or Dad How I Do, which is basically kind of like it's like a father that I believe it's one. I'm gonna get this wrong and I feel bad, but either they didn't have their father or they did have their father that would teach them stuff, and so kind of their channel is about them kind of like teaching things around the house, how to fix things and do things like that. And they just started in April of this year, like 3 months ago, and they blew up. Now granted, one of the things about that is it's a niche, and niching down is one of the ways people say to grow. If you want to do variety stuff, it will be a slower growth because you kind of have to attract people based off of your personality more so than your content. I still don't think variety channels are dead though in 2020 either. You might need to have to grind a little bit, like maybe do 3 videos a week at least. You don't have to necessarily do daily videos per se. The ultimate goal is watch time. As long as you can get people to watch a video all the way through, YouTube will still promote it though, and that's part of the thing I want to talk about. Because one of the videos for me that's doing pretty well right now is a game we played a couple weeks ago that I funneled through the TikTok content as well. And the reason that video is doing so well is because a lot of people are just watching it most, or at least even half of the way through, and it's an hour-long video. Now, what does that mean for you? It just means if you are starting out, if you're feeling kind of hopeless and stuff like that, you don't necessarily have to count on going viral. You don't necessarily have to count on having a lot of marketing and maybe nepotism from people you know and connections and stuff like that. That definitely does help, and you want to build those connections as you go along. But all it means is, as long as you can focus on making a video people want to watch, even if it's a bit more of a niche, even if it's a bit more out there, even if it's a bit more you, and you feel like you need to chase trends. Even I've talked about chasing trends in the past, but like, everybody chases trends. If you go and make a trending kind of a video, you might not still get noticed because that's like thousands of people maybe doing something depending on the platform. But if you focus on you a bit, maybe put a bit of your personality into that trend, that's what you can bring to the table, your uniqueness. That's not something that's outdated in 2020, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it in 2020 because it's too much you, or there's too much you in it, or you're not good enough, or things like that, right? First of all, we can all learn. No one's comes out the womb perfect, right? No one comes out the womb a perfect content creator, an artist, a video writer, an editor, actor, whatever the profession you're doing is in this kind of entertainment line of work, right? So everyone's got to learn how to do something anyways. But beyond that, you can always learn from every single video that you make even, right? And sometimes it's about just getting started, getting your feet wet, get out in the pool, kind of dive into it, right? Like we talked about like KURI, for example, earlier. I mentioned RP and stuff like that, right? For some people, that's kind of interesting to them. They like the idea of writing or acting and stuff like that, especially if it's in VR chat where you can use maybe like your motions if you have like VR and stuff. Some of it is just kind of getting into it, kind of getting into the motions of it, figuring out what you are and aren't good at. And also understanding that it's okay to not be good at something, and that doesn't mean you have to give it up completely. And so with that being said, why I'm bringing all this up to kind of collectively put this together is, Both of the people we mentioned at the beginning of this video grinded to get to where they are. Unfortunately, they've been rewarded. We've kind of grinded a little bit too on this channel, and so we're kind of seeing some success by it funneling through TikTok. But you, I don't know exactly where you are listening at this point in the video, are at in your journey, but I'm telling you, you can make it too. In 2020, you can still succeed, and don't let no one tell you that you can't, even if it's not content creation. Maybe it's just you're studying for a test still because you're at summer classes, or just school coming up, college is coming up because you've graduated, whatever the case is. Work, maybe you're shooting for that promotion. Even if you didn't hit it the first time, you maybe hit it the second time. Who knows? You gotta keep working, yes, but it doesn't mean that because you have to keep working, you're some sort of failure because you have to do it again, or it's taking longer than you thought it was. Life kind of works in a strange way that way, where sometimes timing is all over the place and not exactly where we want it to be. But with that being said, I'm going to end the video because I feel like I'm a little bit rambling by basically saying, hey, keep your chin up, keep your head up, you can still do it, and it's totally fine if it's a little bit of setbacks along the way. The road could be a long road, it might not necessarily be like a hop and a skip, and that's totally fine. But there you go. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm not gonna say make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. This is just some good, hopefully, if someone watched this far, they feel better about something that they're doing right now, and that's kind of all I could hope for. So I'm just gonna end the video there and say thank you so much for watching this video. I don't know which video will be next. We're just gonna have to wait and see. So until this time, take care and enjoy pizza responsibly. Thank you for watching.